When will life fully return to normal? It's a top-of-mind question for Canadians, but what should that normal look like? And how much should the federal government spend to make it happen?
We will be there for Canadians as long as it takes, whatever it takes.
Now Mr. Trudeau wants to use this health and economic crisis as an opportunity to reimagine Canada's economy.
The pandemic raised federal spending to levels unseen since the Second World War. Money poured out of Ottawa for emergency support, for tax deferrals, and for supporting the provinces. The deficit soared to $354 billion, but the economy shrank a record 5% in 2020, with COVID-19 battering businesses big and small.
Some economic pillars, like the housing market, have remained strong, and household savings have ballooned, an average of 15% last year. But those gains have flowed more to middle and high-income households. The Bank of Canada has said economic activity has been more resilient than anticipated. But low-wage workers, young people, and women in particular, remain out of work, and only strong and sustained growth can overcome the pandemic's severe impacts.
The real question will be, by the end of 2021, as we go into 2022, where will the chips fall? Will folks be able to return to employment, particularly in low-wage sectors? Or will they find that those jobs simply aren't there at the same time as important government benefits evaporate?
The Liberal recovery pitch from the last budget. Inclusive growth and $135 billion in new spending over the next 5 years. More than half earmarked for childcare, COVID-19 support programs and benefits, with billions more for affordable housing, the green economy, and helping businesses go digital.
It all comes down to this: good jobs, a strong and fair economy, and a healthy environment.
Erin O'Toole is after more national self-sufficiency, more manufacturing jobs, and more incentives for small business creation, with targeted and time-limited stimulus for hard-hit sectors, and a responsible winding down of emergency measures.
Spending to protect Canadians during the pandemic is the right thing to do, and Conservatives have supported it. But we can't pass unsustainable debt to our children and future generations.
The IMF lauded Canada's timely, decisive, and well-coordinated policy response to the pandemic, but cautioned that billions in new stimulus would need more justification. But it's not a unanimous view that more spending could be too much for Canada's economy to handle or jeopardize fiscal health.
We have a large debt, to be sure, but it's not really impacting the budget as much as it would have 10 or 20 years ago. It's certainly possible that interest rates would increase, and it's possible that inflation might increase, but we don't have any indication at this point in the long term that that's going to happen.
The Trudeau government adjusted its fiscal anchor to unwinding COVID-related deficits and reducing the federal debt as a share of the economy over the medium term. That debt-to-GDP ratio is now projected above 50%. Liberals believe low interest rates make this manageable, arguing the Canadian economy is still far from seeing broadly shared benefits. But the pace of recovery and 6 to 7% growth expected this year has led the Bank of Canada to expedite its timeline for raising rates.
One of the objectives at the federal level should be to, put a clear path forward to not only reducing debt, but, significantly kind of reducing our debt to GDP ratio, so that if we should come across another crisis, we have a little bit of wiggle room to be able to deal with it.
The NDP plan for creating 1 million jobs touches on essential workers, infrastructure, and domestic production capacity, with higher taxes on the wealthiest of Canadians. The Bloc Québécois wants to focus on Quebec's natural resources and renewable energy sector. And the Green Party says now is the time for a major push to a net zero economy. What should a post-COVID economy look like? And how much to spend in support of the recovery? Two questions that loom large as Canadians prepare to vote.